Hello and welcome, I'm Chris and this is the Hair Tutorial channel, and on this video we're going to be looking at how lift can affect the tone within the hair and how we can either add more tone to it or neutralize that unwanted tone. Now in my first video we looked at base colors and levels of lift, and I'll leave that in the description below and also put a card up here for you. On this video we're going to be solely focusing on the tonal aspect. So what is tone? So the first thing that you probably have ever learned as a hairdresser is your colour star and your primary and your secondary colours, and how that using an opposite colour such as violet will neutralise out unwanted yellow or gold. This is very common, like I said, one of the very first things that you actually learn. Now this can be a very complicated subject, so I'm going to come at it at a very simplistic point of view. And sometimes I think that I actually overthink things because I go way into depth when I really don't need to. Now, although the colour star is universally used, the numbers to represent these colours or the letters to represent these colours will change depending on the brand that you use. And it's really important that you study the numbers or the letters around the colour star so that you're able to correctly identify the colour you're dealing with. Now, when it comes to lifting hair, as you lift the hair, you're going to start to remove your red, copper, orange and yellow from the hair. The lighter you go, you will eventually remove all of these colours from the hair and, in theory, be left with pure white hair. However, we know as hairdressers that this isn't generally the case, that usually we will lift to a certain level and then we will be left with an underlying colour, whether that be red, orange, copper or yellow. Now adding to these colours is very simple. If you lift to a gold colour and you simply want to add more gold, then that's not a problem. The issue tends to come when we want to neutralise out the unwanted tone as we lift. Now again, there are two ways of doing this. When you're looking at permanent colour, the simplest and quickest way to do this is that when you're choosing a colour to lift, and you know that you're going to get an underlying tone of a certain colour come out, that you use the opposite tone in the colour to neutralise that. So for instance, if you're lifting from a 6 to a 9, you know that you're going to end up with a warm colour because a 9 has yellow in it. If you don't want the yellow, the counteracting tone to yellow is violet. So you're going to pick a tone that has some amount of violet in it so that as the colour lifts, that violet neutralises out the gold. You have your second option, of course, where you can simply lift the hair and then use a toner, a violet toner, to neutralise it out, which is primarily what we do when we're looking at lighteners and bleaches. Now here are a couple of issues that I encounter across the board when it comes to lightening hair. The first is not correctly identifying your tone, and that means the tone that you're going to lift to, whether it's going to be red, orange or yellow, and then also not using the correct tone to counteract that. Let's have a for instance. So if I was to use blue to counteract yellow, this would be too strong and I would end up with a very ash, maybe grey looking colour because the blue is too strong. It only needs a violet. However, if I tried to use a violet to counteract orange or copper, it won't be strong enough. And again, I'm going to end up with a very muddy, dirty colour because it's not able to do the job that it's designed for. So the first thing when lifting is to identify where you're going to be. Is it going to be red? Is it going to be orange? Or is it going to be yellow? And then correctly using the counteracting tone. Now here's another common problem that I see a lot of times, and it might be handy to grab a colour chart for this one because I don't think these will show up properly on camera. But let's say that we want to lift our client from a 5 up to an 8. That's 6, 7, 8. That's 3 levels of lift, quite reasonable to do with a permanent colour. Now we know that on an 8 it's going to have a small amount of warmth in it. Now look along the row of 8s. Look at your neutral, your base colour, and go right along the line. In my instance, I've got quite a few choices to pick from. Now look at those and tell me which one you think is the brightest colour. The one that stands out and looks the lightest. Now to me, it's the 8.3. It has a gold tone within it, and the gold reflects the light and it looks light and bright. But our client doesn't want gold in their hair. They want that neutralized. So we're going to use a 0.2 to neutralize that unwanted yellow, which is totally correct. However, when this works and the violet neutralizes the yellow, what we're left with is an 8. Now, if you can, hold the 8 up against the 8.3. Which one looks darker? Well, it's the 8, because you've neutralized out that gold tone, the gold reflect, the shine, and you've turned it to more of an ash, a more neutral color. However, they're both still 8s, so the hair hasn't gone darker, and I see this a lot within salons. People saying that they've used a toner and it's gone darker. Very, very rarely that can happen. However, the majority of the time you've neutralized out the warmth and turned it to a neutral or an ash color, which doesn't reflect the light and therefore can look visually darker. But they are both still along the same base. So what has actually happened is you haven't lifted the hair light enough to achieve what you wanted to. And probably if you want a very light, clean colour, you're going to have to lift at least to a 10 to achieve this. Now when it comes back again to different colour companies, the amount of tone that they put into their products would be different. So if you were using an ash, a blue in Weller, and you switched over to another colour brand, firstly you'd want to check that the numbering system or lettering system was the same. But secondly, you can't expect the same result. How much blue Weller put in their colour compared to how much blue another colour puts in will be totally different. They're different systems. They're different companies. How long you have to leave it on may alter and vary as well, depending on the colour company that you change or use. Now on a very simple note, we have really only 3 colours to counteract again: our red, our orange and our yellow. Now in the third video I'm going to take a look at our high lifts and also bleaches and how these will affect the hair. So if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification button. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them or include them in my next video. And thank you for watching.